Today's episode is sponsored by our friends at Ian's Display Accessories, the best figure stands for iconic Star Wars, G.I. Joe, as well as modern action figures. And TGC Customs. Hey, replace those boring accessory Hasbro issues with 6-inch versions of iconic weapons and accessories. Shipping nationwide. Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Codename NOOOOO 2. Hi, I'm your presenter GIJoe, where we're going to take a look at another G.I. Joe classified figure. This would be the Python Patrol Cobra officer. This one is actually really cool and interesting. My regulars know that I've had little bit of a difficult time with Emily of the GIJoe Hasbro team. One of the suggestions I made to her was to incorporate different ethnic backgrounds when it comes to the Cobra Trooper, officer, so on and so forth. Just because a real military, being that today is Memorial Day, where we thank so many for their sacrifice in defending and protecting our freedoms. But it doesn't matter if you're red, yellow, green, white, black, whatever. As soon as you wear those colors, that's all that matters. But I think that's an accurate representation to incorporate different ethnical backgrounds in your, even though they're the bad guys, but still, I think it's a good way to incorporate that diversity aspect. I mean, that's my whole beef. Is it seems like Emily and that Hasbro team has been catering to, all of the people that they reached out to in the 40th anniversary look a particular way, totally disregarding minorities or the minority fan base. I mean, well, and Larry Hama, purposely created G.I. Joe to be a celebration of diversity, where a group of people coming together for a common good. And I like that aspect. That's what attracted me into this toy line. Transformers are robots, but G.I. Joe is real people. I mean, they could be real people. And it just shows that you don't need to be a superhero to act like a superhero. That's what I like about G.I. Joe the most. So this figure is interesting because it does that. Now, I have done a very extensive videos in the past, my regulars know, covering the whole Cobra Viper versus Cobra Trooper aspect of the Cobra line. And it was a really popular video. A lot of people chimed in with their views, what they think in their play scenarios, and that's great. But we brought in what Larry Hama says and some aspects of a comic. It was a really in-depth, I was like researching like a college paper basically, and I'm really proud of that video. So even though we're going to touch on it a little bit, I would recommend watching that if you haven't. So that's a good top tip for you. And today I decided to break out my gung-ho new era G.I. Joe hat. I've been wearing this in a while in front of the camera. Hey, I'm like, what the hell? Veterans Day? I mean, Memorial Day, I think this is a good time to wear this hat. And I love this hat. These new era hats are pain in the ass to find now, but I'm so glad I was able to get two several years back. And, the whole keeping your brim straight, we in the 90s we used to bend them and stuff. So I still have a tendency to do that. And I don't know any older guys like me that still wear hats occasionally, especially when you have a bad hair day. What do they do? Do they do this, keep the brim straight and all that shit, or do they go back to the old style? I'm just curious to know. So let me know about that. Anyway, let's take a look at the Target exclusive Python Patrol Cobra Officer. Is that a title or what? So here we go with the card art of this, and it's a carbon copy of the Cobra officer that came out about 6 months ago. And again, they're still using the window style, not the new windowless style, so you could tell that these were made. And these are the last in this current round. I mean, we had started with, I would say, Tiger Force Duke, Recondo, and what else? What was the third one? There's another one. And then finally, the Python Patrol Officer. And so there's nothing new here. It's the exact, I'm going to pull up a picture of it on the side here. The box I have is actually in the attic, but it's the same thing. So nothing different. Just, you know, when it comes to G.I. Joe, you have to expect recolors, reused parts. That's part of the fun and the lure of this toy line. And whether you like it or don't like it, it is what it is to me, and I think it's kind of cool. If anything, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later, the Black Major action figures taught us that variation of colors is actually a good thing. I mean, and you know, we did that Black Major video several years back, and you know, to those that don't know, since then, Black Major and I have stopped talking. I don't know why, but he's very paranoid for people to see what he looks like or any type of identification. He was already, I mean, he was a nice dude. He would call me and we would talk on the phone, but I never, obviously, I knew where he lived, but, you know, not exactly. But at the same time, like, I just didn't care, like, you know. But I think one day he Instagram phone called me by accident, and I picked up, and he thinks that I saw what he looked like. And since then, I've been blocked. So I didn't see what he looks like. I don't know if he's red, green, yellow, black, white. I have no idea, and I don't care. But he's paranoid. So since then, I've been, even though I didn't do anything wrong, but whatever. So anyway, going back to this rambling, it's just the fact that I think the Black Major toys or figures have showed us that variety is definitely a good thing, even though it's the same action figure. So let's open this up and take a look. So already we've been introduced to the Python Patrol Viper and the Python Patrol Cobra Bat from this Python Patrol exclusive line. And it's funny because I was not going to pick these up, but I'm so glad I did. I really like these. And of course, you know, since I have it, I have the original Python Patrol Viper. So that look, I didn't showcase when I did the review of the Python Patrol Viper. That when you have so many fucking figures, like, you forget what you have, and I totally dropped the ball on that and showcase that would have looked nice, like I did with the regular Viper. And since we're talking about our good friend Black Major, let's showcase what I'm talking about as far as, oh, well, that fell. So this is the Python Patrol Black Major Eel, and this is the Python Patrol Night Viper. So again, that's where this Black Major, and I said it during that video, where he comes in and fills up the gap. I know there's a, you know, when I did that video, it was a it was during this whole Star Wars back and forth going on between the Junkman and Retro Blasting as far as reproduction figures versus original, and how some of these original people end up sending death threats to like Stan Solo and all these people that make reproduction. And I understand both sides of the fence, and I said that during the video. I understand both sides of the fence. But there's a thing called freedom, and that, you could, if you want it, get it. If you don't want it, don't buy it. That's it. And if you're going to sell, be forthcoming. I think it's the responsibility of the seller to be ethically sound and truthful, not so much Black Major. You shouldn't put, or Stan Solo, you shouldn't put that on them for, not making these things. It's a free country. They could do what they want. But the intention is the person that buys these figures and tries to sell it as originals. Those are the scumbags. So, again, I'm not trying to open an old wound or anything, but that's basically, and it's still going on to this day, the Junkman and the retro blasting action analog toys things. I mean, I try to be cool with everybody. I don't get involved. It's not my fight, and I rather keep my little channel kind of like neutral, like Switzerland. Let's see. The one thing about these the eels, they don't need a figure stand, but you have to make sure they line up well. That's going to fall over. But anyway, I just wanted to showcase that. So let's dive in and look at the Python Patrol Officer. Alrighty, so this is everything in the contents of the packaging. And again, it's just a carbon copy of the Cobra Officer that was released a few months back. You have both of his firearms, his AK, his knife, you got a magazine, silencer, and again the the Han Solo pistol. I like that. That's the first thing that pops up to my in my head when I see this gun. It looks like Han Solo's gun. And of course his holster or backpack, this goes in his back. But what I like about this, it looks like a worn leather. So they did a good job with this one. And of course the actual figure, again, it's a nice modern representation of the original Python Patrol Officer, which I don't have, and I double checked this time, but I'll bring up the picture from 3D Joe's on the side here. Thanks to Carson. Shout out to Carson. Alrighty, so here we have the figure all assembled, and all right, let's address the elephant in the room. This is more of, well, it is it's the Cobra Trooper, but for some reason Hasbro switched it around and they called it the Cobra Officer. Now, in the original line, this deco was allocated to the Python Patrol Trooper, not the Officer, as we'll see later down in this video. But I wanted to point that out, especially for people. We have a lot of people that are new and jumped on the G.I. Joe bandwagon, or may not know, but this is actually the Cobra Trooper. So when I bring out all his buddies, I'm going to show both the Officer and the Trooper of the regular line. But I just think it's interesting that they did that. Often, Hasbro would allocate, we talk about the guns, the AK-47, that's more of the Trooper, but they gave it to the Officer, and then they gave the sniper rifle to the Trooper when they should have given the Officer that sniper rifle. So again, it's just Hasbro fucking with us, and I think it's good. I don't care. Whatever it is, whether you want to call it the Trooper or you want to call it the Officer, this figure looks amazing. Wow. I just think they did a wonderful job with this, and it looks absolutely stunning. And I still have some of these left. I always recommend Ian's display stands, but I wanted to try these figure stands as well. And I like these, but I like Ian's better because, like I said in other episodes, you have a wider base, so it's less likely for the figure to tip over. With these, if depends if the figure is top heavy, like with the big backpack, like let's see, maybe Outback. Outback is a good example, or Spirit. Spirit is a great example. These would be terrible for Spirit, where the Ian's display stands, you have more of a, to distribute the weight a little bit better. So I would recommend, either way you could go good. I think these take up less spaces. So, I think getting a combination is the best way to go. Alrighty, so I know that there's fans that say Python Patrol, and they know Python Patrol, but they don't know exactly what is Python Patrol. So I'm going to give a little textbook definition of what Python Patrol actually is. And it's a select group of Cobra mercenaries that utilize high-tech, re-outfitted vehicles and sophisticated camouflage for venomous strikes against G.I. Joe. Now, both the comic and the cartoon refer to this as the Pythonization process, but how it came to be is completely different. We're going to stick more with the comic because, let's face it, anything with Deke is completely bonkers. So, the concept of Python Patrol makes its debut in issue number 88, during the height of the Walakukulan and Darkolia conflict. The U.S. government's selling off arms to the highest bidder, and both countries have added to their arsenal and flexing their muscles to one another. Somehow, through Destro, his cousin Dark Lone is also able to acquire not only Cobra but G.I. Joe weapons as well, including a Conquest. As Destro and Cobra Commander, the fake one, have patched up their relationship post the Cobra Civil War. Now, Dr. Mindbender is called in to apply this new technology, and it looks like something a pest control applies on the lawns. So this new paint application will both block radar and ultraviolet detection. Now, two completely different disciplines, mind you. So a mere paint being able to do this is actually hilarious. Now, as for the D cartoon, part 4 of the initial Operation Dragonfly is where you'll find this wacky scene and explanation of Pythonizing.
You had a demonstration of my new Pythonizing technique. So far, I have been fusing snakes with vehicles. But to join you to either would be a waste of both. So instead, I will join you with Norgahard's pet iguana.
And so here's his entire division. And from what we covered in that episode, he would be the leader, and the Viper would actually take orders from him. I mean, again, you could do whatever you want. That's not written in stone, but just going by what we researched, that's basically how it would unfold. So the Cobra officer would be the one, getting the commands. And again, it's funny that the Deke episode, Operation Dragonfly, the first episode in the Deke series talked about Pythonizing, and how they just took a snake and it just like spocked and then spit out the redeco on the people and on the aircraft, and it was a completely different version in the comics as well. So for shits and giggles, watch that episode of Deke. That's where they explained Pythonizing stuff. So that's pretty funny. But again, this just looks really nice. And we have I don't know if they're going to make a trooper, but this would be the Cobra Troopers. And again, a shout out to our good friend at TGC Customs, because the AK-47, that came from TGC Customs, as well as the Cobra Viper's gun. So I still have to ask my friend to send me for this so he could get that same gun, because I want to keep it consistent. I love the fact that TGC is giving us the chance to take our 6-inch figures and add a little bit of the retro lines splash to it. So it just, I mean, look at my Cobra Viper. He just looks like that's the gun. He just looks perfect. It's just this upscale version of the 3 3/4 inch figure. And the AK-47, I think, looks a lot better than um, the one that you can see that. I mean, that version for the officer, it looks like something that sadly many that went overseas saw on a regular basis. This is what the Wahhabi Taliban's, that's what they were armed with, these AK-47s, and those things are just stupid. There's spray, no accuracy, jamming all the time. I mean, to our advantage, but at the same time, like, I hate the AK-47 with a passion. But, if you're going to get one, this is the TGC Customs, I think, does a better job of making it look real life. And that's a pretty nice bunch right there. We'll get everybody here. So these two, the Cobra officers, would kind of be up in front. Well, actually, they would put the bat up front, right? Because the Operation Human Shield. I always think of that episode in South Park. Oh, you ever heard of the Emancipation Proclamation? I don't listen to hip hop. That was a great episode. A movie. That was from the movie. So that would basically be what would be marching down in the jungles or the streets, and you would be running in terror and fear that Cobra is here. Cobra is here. And here we have the face-off between the Tiger Force and Python Patrol. So again, this was fun collecting these and picking these up. And in the end, they do look great. And I'm actually really glad that, I could add this slot to the collection. I think Hasbro did a very good job. And got to give credit where credit is due. So these entire divisions are well represented, and definitely a joy to have in the collection. So with that aside, this is another episode of Codename New to Vero 2. Thanks for watching, and we'll get back to doing some comic shit in the next few episodes. I am going to be working on the Voltron one, hopefully. And then we're going to have a special with Simple Tricks and Nonsense. Our friends, our cosplaying friends, we're going to do a recap He-Man comic of early He-Man comics together. So I know there's going to be a Toylanta road trip, so we'll talk about that, and that's going to be a lot of fun. Alrighty, we'll see you next time.